you to confirm that or something. So thank you for joining. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Michael Clemens. I'm the founder of YouMeWe. And I thank you who are able to join live, and thank anyone who's able to watch the playback if you're not able to join live. So I wanted to take this opportunity to just speak to everybody and field any questions that you might have. There's a few things that I want to show you today with regards to the structure of the MPO, both internally and externally, and then what we're trying to accomplish. Needless to say, during COVID, it really threw a lot of wrenches and our plans, just as it probably threw wrenches in everybody else's plans. But I think I'm pretty happy with the fact that we tried to be very nimble during that and pivot in many cases. And so I think it would have been easy for us just to give up during COVID, but instead we did a lot more online events, and then we pursued receiving more computers that we could send out to people. So in a strange way, even though we're never looking for a pat on the back, the truth is we feel we were kind of ahead of the curve, because we kept telling everyone the kids need to be connected to the internet. They need to have connection to information. And so, even before COVID happened, we had hundreds of computers in the field. And if anything, I think the government also caught on and started giving funding for people to actually upgrade the computers that we'd sent them, or give them new computers, etc. And even now we have over like 50 Air Max or Airbooks rather in storage that we're trying to pair up with homes that are requesting more. You also saw students who had left the orphanage at 18 and started university, and then they actually had their computers blow up, and then they don't have parents and a support system to reach out to when they need to replace this several hundred or several $1,000 unit. And so we happily, gave those to the kids that were in university, and also anybody who was in university and was then told to go home, they were expecting to be in class. And so the fact that they didn't have a computer to be able to participate online gave them great anxiety. And of course, we just gave them whatever they needed. So we feel really happy to have been in that position. But I'm anticipating or hoping, as is everybody, that going into the new year, we'll be able to get back into face-to-face volunteer events. And so I want to take this time to kind of reach back to a lot of you who reached out to us, because while we have an increase in homes that are asking for computers and wanting to participate in online content, we've also had a huge surge in volunteers, simply because I think people are working from home, they're wanting to have more things to do, or they're reflecting on how they'd like to spend their time, etc. And so we've done our best to try to pair people who have contacted us, but we're just kind of a car with three wheels, in the sense that not all the homes are willing to let us come in, and not all of them are up to speed yet. And so there's a lot of potential going into 2022. Any questions so far from anyone?
Michael, yes. So, I don't know about the other member, but this is my first time joining YouMeWe. So, uh, before you talk more about the details, can you just give like a couple minutes overview of what the MPO is doing and what you're expecting from the prospective volunteers coming forward?
Sure.
Okay,
In
thank
fact,
you.
I have a presentation to share with you, if you just bear with me one moment. I think I have it sitting here waiting. Whoops. Just bear with me one moment. I have it here somewhere. Okay, so for example, the presentation that we like to share with people comes from our monday.com site. And hang on, you have to bear with me while I find it, because it looks like it closed. So basically, YouMeWe was started in 2018, but I personally been in Japan for about 30 years. And we basically, in 2007, I was asked to play Santa in one of the homes. And when that happened, I walked in and I realized that a lot of the kids in the homes were half. which is to say half Japanese and half another nationality. And in the beginning, I was upset, hoping that wasn't the reason that they were in the homes, because they weren't pure Japanese. But to be frank with you, there's just too many stories to generalize. And so there's 30,000 children living in orphanages in Japan, and 600 homes in Japan, all over the country. There's also about 14 to 15,000 in foster care. So the United Nations Human Rights Watch, which is it with the other right around, that there was only 14,000 in institutional care and 30,000 in foster care. But this is just not the case. And this is not a country where people generally adopt. And so even though, many people come up to me at cocktail parties and say, I'd love to adopt, what can I do? I always tell them it's not impossible, but it's not easy. So the first thing to do is to go to your ward office and talk to the child section and see how they could go around the process, because there is a process. I've seen people do it, but it's not easy. So YouMeWe was really started because we feel that the 30,000 kids in the homes are the hidden assets in Japan. They've always been called the throwaway children, which I hate. And I think that in a population where you have more people over 65 per capita in the world and less under 15 years old per capita in the world, we really need to be looking to the fact that this population as a whole will half by 2100. And so all the more reason now to be looking at all the marginalized people, or all the people that don't have opportunities, more single moms in the workplace, more people working from home, more people working past the age of 60 up to 80. So out of that 127 million people in Japan, I think only 66 million work. But the question is, if the total population will have, presumably the working population will also have. And so how do you get people to come into Japan and backfill jobs? Because, robots don't pay taxes. And so even though I think they would love to have robots just do all the jobs at the convenience store and the gas station, the truth is it's an expensive infrastructure. And so you need people here. And so we feel that the skills that we're teaching the kids are 21st century job skills for the 21st century jobs. When I came to Japan 30 years ago, I didn't have this laptop and I didn't have an iPhone. And so we don't know what technology kids are going to have 30 years from now. And I would also venture to say we should not be telling kids what kind of job they should be trying to get, because many of the jobs over the next 10 years haven't even been invented yet. So, jobs related to 5G and 6G and 7G in the future, all these different things. I think that the three things that will never change is communication, collaboration, and creativity, with an emphasis on create. So helping the kids speak, helping them work together in teams, whether it's online or face-to-face, helping them be creative in whatever roles that they're taking. Even in technology, the design of an iPhone has a beautiful aesthetic, for example. So even in technology, I think there's a place for art and creativity. So I'll just go through the slides fairly quickly. I think this is the English version. You'll have to bear with me if it's not. Oh, it's not. Okay, so roughly the last we checked, only 5% of the homes in Japan had a connection to the internet. This most likely increased over COVID. I think there was a lot of money and effort to get homes online because of studies, etc. When I first started in this space, only about 9% went on to university, and now last I checked, it was 16, but then Tomoya just checked again and he said it's closer to 30. So more and more, these kids are not thinking, oh, I don't have money, so I can't go to school. They're finding the money, or the scholarships are available through companies. And more kids are going to school. So out of our total population of kids that we support last year, 50% went to school. 48% had jobs lined up, and maybe 2% were special needs kids that they think that we can't help, which is not true. We have many companies that are interested in helping kids with special needs. And so we just try to make sure that they know our network is their network. And so that, that simply all we're trying to do is open up the network. So we started by giving, with the goal of giving each child their own device, because, even if you're on a softball team today, I don't think you can keep in touch with your coach and the players without line. And so, when the kids are in high school, they're generally getting smartphones. But, when I first started in this space, just putting a computer and a printer in a home was a huge deal. And now, we continue to want each kid to have their own device so they can focus on either, studying further, looking for the ideal job, or following their dreams. So we currently are as far north, or south rather, as Nagasaki. We have many computers now in Kyoto and Osaka and Nagoya. And then we have, I think, over 800 computers in total in the field. And out of the 600 homes, even though we have contact with all 600 through our newsletter, there's only about 16 that we have active contact with as far as training and connections, etc. We're all throughout Tohoku, as far north as Iwate-ken, in Ofunato. And then we're in Sendai, 3 homes in Fukushima, even though 2 of them are not so active. There's about a dozen homes in Tokyo and Kanagawa. And so my goal is to put a computer in all 600 homes, because then we're creating the network so that when these kids get out of the homes, they then have us to reach out to if they're looking for jobs. And then conversely, we can be working with companies that are looking for native Japanese speakers to come work for their companies, whether it's hospitality business or whichever business it is. So, we can confidently say over 800 kids now have access to internet. And it depends on the home. Some homes have computer labs where the kids can come in under a timed or supervised basis. Some homes are more strict where they lock up the computers and put them away until the next time they're trained. But we started out by basically training kids on Microsoft platform, and then a lot of them moved on to get certification in Word and Excel and PowerPoint. And so there's like Yonkyu, Sankyu, Nikkyu, Ikkyu, and some of them even have the instructor level. And so those kids, even though they go on to university, could actually teach how to get this certification as a job. And I've seen where I've taken kids in for interviews and the hiring manager is like, wow, you're certified in Excel. Nobody in the accounting department is certified in Excel. And so it's a nice thing, I think, to have on the resume as early as 18. Any questions so far here? Okay. So somewhere around 2014, 15, I thought, well, who cares? I mean, who cares that we're giving computers to orphans? I mean, it's not a daft idea, but who really cares? And I thought, the real important thing and the way that you can really connect with the staff in the homes is by letting them understand that you have the same concerns that they do, which is that when the kids reach 18, that they're employable. And so we started doing career assessment tests back in 2016, where we basically start with financial literacy, where we have the kids sit down and we ask them, how much money do you think you need at 18? And then it's a program that Shinsei has developed called Money Connection. So our staff are certified to do this. And so they write down on a piece of paper, how much do you think rent is? How much do you think water is? How much so they don't think of anything besides their mobile phone bill when they're in high school. But when you see the list of things that they should be conscious of, and then we reveal how much it really costs for someone to be able to be on their own, then we go to the career assessment test and say, okay, now what kind of jobs do you think you could do to earn this 200,000 a month? Or if you want to earn 400,000 a month, what kind of jobs do you think you can do? So they basically take this test, and then based on the questions, it just gives them a wide range of possibilities for them based on their aptitude. And you can hear the kids saying, wow, it says I could be a banker. Wow, it says I could be a teacher. So that's when mentors like yourselves can come in and work with somebody who wants to be an accountant and say, okay, why don't we put a plan together? We call it the SMART goals. 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, 3 years. What are you going to do in the next month or 3 months towards this goal? What are you going to do in the next 6 months towards this goal? And so, like getting Boki license, the bookkeeping license, getting started and understanding Excel and start getting certified in Excel, etc. And then, CV preparation, presentation preparation, whether it's online or in person, getting them to know how to dress. Hygiene, unfortunately, is an issue, in my opinion, in the homes. I think there's just too many kids to look after. And I've seen someone who came out of the home and she had got a job she moved from Fukushima to Tokyo. And then she got a job and then lost it because of power harassment, which frankly speaking was a new term for me because I think I was power harassed my whole career. But due to power harassment, she lost her job. She came into the interview with us. She had like a soy stain on her blouse. She had ripped stockings. Her handbag was kind of torn. And she was completely petrified in the interview. She couldn't even answer questions in Japanese. So I was thinking, this is not really the population we're focused on, but this is an example of what's coming out of the homes. And so the candle's burning at both ends. We should be very conscious of what her situation is. So, we took her to like women networks at different places who gave professional clothing for her to wear. We had many mentors who were willing to work with her. And then what I didn't realize is she was pregnant. And so single and 18 or 19 years old, we couldn't tell the orphanage what the situation was. And so we had to take her to the ward office and get her connected with the services provided by her ward. And that ended up kind of being her story, right? And so if anything, it just pointed out to me, the earlier that we can connect with these kids and the earlier we can kind of get a life plan in place for them, the better. Because, none of us asked to be born, let's face it. But once these kids are born, despite their circumstances, whether the families are poor, whether the families are abusing them, whether the families are just not able to raise them, that doesn't matter. But we really want them to focus on how their lives could end up. And I think the more that we can show them examples, anyone can write a check for 600 or 30,000 computers. I mean, Bill Gates can do it. I don't think I can do it today. But I mean, anybody can do that. But what really matters to these kids when they look back is the fact that an adult has taken time one-on-one with them to show them that their lives matter. And so this is, the kind of culture that we're trying to build up with the volunteers and the kids. In the future, we feel there's a lot of interesting opportunities because in Japan, what are Japan's plights? We have a very small amount of youth and the largest per capita number of people over 65, people living to 115. We've got, the challenge of being global. So, language challenges. We have the challenge of, new technologies coming out or people understanding new technologies that come out. So we feel YouMeWe is a social impactful group, could be teaching this technology. We feel, that the kids in the homes who are half African or they're half Filipino, they're half Malaysian, half Indonesian, that they're double, they're not half. And so they should be connecting with other countries with kids that are similar to them, but then using our platform to teach Japanese online. We're not really an English NPO. We're not really keen necessarily on teaching English, but we use English as a tool to get the kids in front of the computer so they can see where the keys are on the keyboards. We're talking very little kids, like 6, 7 years old. Their teeny little hands can barely go over the mouse. So teaching them what I used to call it code club dojo. Now we call it computing dojo. So just simply knowing how to mouse work, how a trackpad works, how to do many things is new for a lot of these kids. And so one of the things that we've started is what we call the Empower Village. And so we have people here, in fact. And so either it's made up of, I don't call them orphans anymore, and I don't call them kids because they're overaged. So they work for us. And so they're either a combination of they're going to school and they work with us part-time to be teaching these skills to the other kids that are left behind in the home, or they work for us full-time because they don't have an opportunity elsewhere. In other cases, we place kids with BMW. We've helped a kid just get a job at Sakura Internet. And so where we can, we're also trying to be that conduit between hiring companies and kids who are looking for jobs. We're doing Code Club online, anything from Ichigo Jam courses to we're building games online with the kids. Some of the classes kids are learning HTML. Some of the kids are learning Java coding, etc. And then we do have English simply because some of the kids spoke English before they were brought into the homes. Like mom was African and dad was Japanese, but they spoke English, so they were taken away from mom. And then when they see me, they tried to speak English because they remember speaking English, but they're losing it because they're in a purely Japanese environment. So I don't think English is the most important language for people to be learning, but needless to say, it increases your networking capability if you have English as a skill, because the only importance of the language is the importance of the people speaking it and the importance of the topics that they're speaking it with. But needless to say also, when you're coding, there's certain commands that are in English that they should probably be learning. And it's beautiful to see a kid walk into a class 10 minutes early and just immediately start to be able to start writing the sentence of code from scratch because he can see it right on the screen and start and then unplug the device and put it in a robot and the robot comes alive. And so this is kind of like the fun of teaching. And I think teaching kids the way they want to learn, which is in a fun and curious way. We originally started a class in the Philippines. I'm not sure if this is pointing to the Philippines on this one. I think that's the Philippines. So we started a class in the Philippines, which is still going. We also tried to start a collaboration in Indonesia, and I gave computers in Malaysia to a school there. And then we have a class in Ghana because the teacher in Ghana went viral because he drew Microsoft Word on the board with his chalk because the kids had no idea what bold was or italics or underline. And they're all children of farmers. But my pretense is we want to teach kids where they are. We don't want to necessarily bring kids from the Philippines to here or from Ghana to here. We want to teach them where they are and then have them use those skills in their farming families or use their skills, in the places that they're at. And we also feel in the big picture, if we're able to teach Japanese online, if the kids leaving the homes are able to be certified to teach Japanese, it's a very good skill because we need people in Japan. And so we feel like future construction workers, which you see every day, we need more farmers. As farmers get older, the younger generation doesn't seem to be wanting to farm. So we need more organic farmers, for example. And last I heard, we need 1 million nurses in Japan. And so naturally, the Philippines or Indonesia would be great places for people to be able to come here. So we feel that there's an interesting proposition for us to teach Japanese, not only language, but culture before people come to Japan to make their experience a lot better. So that's kind of, I don't know if it answers your question, but that's kind of the spiel that we give about YouMeWe. Do you have any questions there?
Yeah, thanks, Michael, for the overview. So yeah, my next question is the second questions. So what are you expecting from
Okay.
us, our prospective volunteers going forward?
Okay, so let me pull up a different screen if you'll bear with me. One moment, please. So I think, when it comes to volunteering, the truth of the matter is what you want to put into it is generally what you get out of it. And so some people are very busy, and I totally understand that. And so I would just say that, when you first meet anybody, you don't necessarily have an impression of them. And same would go, I think, for the kids in the homes. If it's just a one-off, they're probably not going to be able to connect with you. But what I'm trying to design is a situation where while I'm in Tokyo, I have a Tohoku area manager, I have a Kanto area manager, I have, eventually can have a Kanagawa area manager. We have a Chubu area manager, I have a Kansai area manager. And so that way I can only speak to 4 or 5 people rather than 600 people. And so the area manager then reaches out to the home coordinator. So the home coordinator is somebody who would then try to put together a team of 6 volunteers per home so we can have that consistency of the people in the homes. Because I think, like I said, if the kids just see you once, there's not a lot of rapport. But if they can see you and connect with you more often, then I think the experience is best for everybody. And so it's designed that way so that there isn't burnout, so that we don't have to worry about people, you know, starting and not being able to continue because they just don't have the time or whatever the case may be. And then also, you know, you can rotate. So as far as time goes, I mean, it's really up to you. I would say currently there's maybe, you know, events take place maybe once a week in the home. So for example, on Mondays, we go to St. Francis, we get an otaku, we get there at 6:30, we do setup, we do the class from 7 to 8, we have breakdown, and then we leave. And so that's a good 3 to 4 hours of your time, probably once a week if you join that team. What I have on the screen, you can see the skills poster, right? Okay, so I'm not really able to show this in the way that I'd like to, but basically we've created kind of a matrix of the different things that we offer. And so it could be that you'd be interested in just being an expert on night zookeeper, and you can go from home to home to home to do that. You could just be a volunteer for one home, and then when you're available, you come to that home and you help out. And then when you're not available, you don't have to come, but then when you want to come again, but at least we have the consistency of you knowing the home and the kids, etc. Common sense educator, we're just about to, Erica and I are working on signing a memorandum of understanding to be the Japan representative of common sense education in Japan. So we've translated their digital citizenship content, and it's teaching kids all of the kind of responsibilities of being digital citizens, whether you're in kindergarten up to 12th grade. And so that's a curriculum that you could learn and help us teach. Microsoft, you know, getting kids connected to learn how to get certified in the different softwares, I think is important. Spiro ball training is done with Scratch. So we basically build an obstacle course, and the kids do the Scratch coding to be able to get the ball to go through the obstacle course. And through the course of the hour, they're adjusting the coordinates to make sure that it's turning properly and going a certain distance properly. Cisco has made us a member of their networking academy, where you can learn many things online in Japanese and English. Ichigo Jam is really just a $15 motherboard connected to a $15 keyboard and monitor. So for $45, the kids can code. So we want them to know you don't need a $2,000 MacBook. You can code this simply by having these things. And so we have quite a few of those units, but then we have the kids program either to do a video game or to get a robot moving. We are a member of Code Club, representing in Japan. The Money Connection, I mentioned about financial literacy. We do have kids that are interested in learning English, and so we have teachers both in America teaching online into Japan and people locally. We have Ruth, who also teaches with puppets for the very little kids, because she says, I'm sorry, my puppets don't speak Japanese. You're going to have to help them. And so the kids, you know, love the puppets and explain to them. The career assessments, the career mentoring, and then Cubetto is actually for the very little kids. So meaning, you know, like preschool kids. And it teaches them, not only them, but deaf children and blind children, how to code, because essentially you put cubes into the motherboard that connects with the Cubetto box by Bluetooth. And then again, you try to get it to move through a matrix or move through a pattern. And so it's helping the older kids, help the younger kids, and helping. I originally got it because there was a deaf boy who was struggling, and I thought we could empower him by teaching him how to do this, and then he could teach other kids how to do that. But he's temporarily somewhere else at the moment. But we have Cubetto. So we're trying to do things at many different ages. Any questions there? Okay. So the next thing I just want to kind of give you, let me see if I can show it to you from here. Try not to exposing accounting stuff. Hang on one second. Okay, bear with me one moment. Sorry, I have so many open windows. It's hard to get to my dashboard. Okay, so just bear with me one moment, please. Okay, so internally, I want to share with you our structure so that you can have an idea of what it is like. Excuse me. Okay, so I'm not really the president. I'm more like the founder. Can you see my organization chart?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm the founder, and then Sato-san is the COO. So he is actually a college student, and I call the kids who aged out of the homes ambassadors. And he's not an ambassador, which is to say he has a family, but he works with me. And then underneath all of us, we have the operations, which is broken up into strategy and legal. We have a finance department. We have what we call human talent and wellness. We have the volunteer success group. We have the fund activist group. Underneath that is fundraising, and then branding and marketing. And then the chief digital office has a project team. So even if people were interested in volunteering in these areas, that's also welcome. But at the moment, most of these kids are on the payroll, and most of them are aged out of the homes. So they're either on their way to getting permanent jobs in April, or they're going to school and working with us part-time. But that's basically the internal organization. If I show you the vacancy matrix, or rather, what we call the vacancy matrix, it's basically showing you what I'm trying to fill. So we move this. We use Monday.com, by the way, to organize or try to organize ourselves. Okay, so the vacancy matrix means how many positions do we have open, and how many people do we have currently, in the field. And so you may not be able to see all the names, which is fine, but essentially on the left is like Hokkaido, Tohoku, Kanto, Kanagawa, Kansai, Chubu, and Kyushu. So on the left are the homes. I tier them because depending on whether they work with us a lot or not so much. So all of them start as bronze, but the ones that are diamond get anything that they ask for. We have a green status if they're actually working with us. You can see a lot of them were trying to work with us or simply stuck. You can see what kind of training they're interested in. Sorry, someone's grinding coffee behind me. You can see who the area manager is. You can see who the home coordinator is. But all of these yellow are open positions, if you will. And so some of you on the call have been placed in homes just because these homes are active. And so hopefully you're all connected on not only the volunteer success chat room, but you're also connected on the home chat room so you can see what's going on. So like Fajar, we have you with Taiyo Gakuen, which is in Tohoku, but then we also have you with Matsubayan, which is in Tokyo. And it's, I don't know if either of them are face-to-face yet, but they're definitely online. And so you should be working with the home coordinator or with me directly if nobody's contacting you about how to connect with those homes for volunteering, etc. So my dream is that, the family, if you will, of volunteers get together and then they are able to have a good enough rapport with the home so that they just come back to us for resources or questions, but they can kind of move on with volunteering at the home directly. That's kind of the dream of the whole volunteer situation. And so I think, as I mentioned, in 2022, we hope that we will be able to get back into homes face to face. And if we do, all the more reason to have kind of a good team of volunteers ready to do that, kind of a critical mass of people who are willing and able to do that. So that's a lot of information, which is why it's good, for people to join this call or listen to the playback when they do. Everybody, I think, volunteers for their own personal reasons. And so, they have to come to terms with why they want to do this and how much time they want to commit to it. I don't think anyone should overcommit, but I also think a one-off is possible, but it's not so meaningful for anybody really. And so we would love for people to do things in a more consistent manner, simply because, like I said, it's those relationships with the kids in the homes ultimately that benefit from this. And it really came home to me when I was working with our ambassadors, because as you know, I think in Japan, when someone turns 18, they're not an adult. And so when they have to leave the orphanage at 18, they go into another home that supervises them until they're 20, trying to prepare them for adulthood. And while I was sitting there with the staff of the adult home, I was thinking, I've known this kid since he was 13. And I was talking to different people when he was 13, different people when he was 16, different people when he was 18. Now I'm talking to a totally different group of people trying to explain how talented this kid is. And then it dawned on me that we were the only consistency in this child's life from 13 to 22, or in some cases 24. And so, I don't take that very, very lightly. I think, I came in as Santa Claus, but I wear many different hats. I'm father, I'm, boss, I'm friend, I'm confidant, but, with all those different hats comes a lot of responsibility. And when it comes to the orphans, I won't give up. And I think that a lot of them struggle with what's called learned helplessness. I learned that term today, actually, from one of the coaches. So we've hired coaches, or rather we have coaches that volunteer their time to work with us because, I'm not a doctor. I'm basically just trying to do this, but there's a lot of stuff over my competence. And so I try to enlist a lot of people that can help from different angles. And I would also mention, now that we have Cassandra on the call as well, is we've been doing an art camp since 2008. I funded it in 2008. And we did it for 10 years and then took a break because of COVID. But next year, the British School in Tokyo is going to host us. So we have a venue, and I believe we'll have buses to be able to go pick up the kids and bring them. And so in the beginning of August next year, our plan is to have at least 1, if not 2 weeks, art camp. Let's just make it 1 week to make it easy the first time. But it's basically artists that come in and volunteer their time to teach kids different art forms. And I've kind of combined it with technology. So I feel the A for art, if you add it to STEM education, becomes STEAM education. And so we mixed Ichigo Jam with encoding with the classes last year. We mixed in digital cameras to let them do photography, etc. So we feel, there's no reason not to have technology involved in arts. So I'll yield. I know I talk a lot, but I'll yield right now to see if anybody has any questions or any comments. And we're located in Shibuya, Hikarie, by the way. So physically, if you ever want to come visit us, that's also possible.
Yeah, sorry, I keep asking questions. So,
Okay.
so the next questions that I want to ask. So, what is the next step for me exactly? So, if I want to, I see that you already put me in like volunteers in like 2 of the homes. So, what is the next step for me that I can do to join the activity? Should I wait for the home coordinator or the project managers to contact me for the activities?
So I'm having a meeting. Now, please keep in mind, a lot of these kids are young. And so I'm having meetings with them to try to explain how we need to organize things better, because in many cases, they just kind of go and do it. And so, to answer your question, first thing we'll do is make sure you're in the right chat rooms for those homes. And secondly, that you have the calendar invitations for the events. But more importantly, that we explain what the event is going to be, whether it's going to be in person or whether it's going to be online, so that you know how to attend, and then try to start that way. But ideally, there should be reaching a time where that home group of volunteers are speaking to each other. And so I don't necessarily have to be involved unless there's questions. Like, for example, this Saturday, there's events at Christmas Village, there's events at Onchien and Chiba, there's events in Nagoya, and I don't necessarily go to those simply because I can't. I can't go to all these things anymore because the group has become too big.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And I don't know what everybody's Japanese language skills are like, and I wouldn't say mine are perfect, but I wouldn't let that deter you either, especially if you're able to do, one-on-one events, because some of the volunteers don't speak Japanese at all, but they're able to help point to the kid, where on the screen they should be pointing, and they understand what we need to do. So they're helping kind of just coach the kids. And when they get frustrated, helping them kind of calm down and focus on the task at hand. And so I wouldn't let language get in the way. If anything, some of these kids speak English fairly well because of Ruth's lessons. I was actually surprised, but yeah.
I mean, I'm fairly confident about my Japanese language, but on the other hand, I'm not really confident at all at my coding language because I'm not a coder. Like, that's not my major at all. So I don't know whether I'll be much help in regards to like coding.
Well, we wouldn't like throw you in the deep end. I mean, normally there's an instructor who's either out in the overhead projector or in the room, and they're not even probably asking you to do that either. And I don't think, frankly, we're doing anything from scratch per se. I mean, if anything, a lot of it is scratch. Not even that sounds like a pun. But the argument with scratch, and when you get into this world, and maybe you know better than I do, is many people have different viewpoints in the technical world on what kids should be focused on. So we have one teacher who says, scratch is fine, but you could do scratch for a year and you don't really accomplish anything. Whereas if you are building a game, very few people have an opportunity to actually do a project from beginning to end, and at the end of it have a result, a tangible result. There's other people who are in the field and say, I don't think the kids should be learning Python. They should skip over to database so they can get an internship. And so in the beginning, I came in very much like, no, we're doing A, B, C, D, E, F, G, because that's the order of things. But now I'm pretty much very fluid to the instructor and letting them kind of just do what they think is important for the kids to learn. But when I really step back, I have to ask myself, are these kids just having fun, which is fine? Or are they learning something? I mean, is there any structure to what we're doing? Do we have a curriculum? And so I just want to make sure that, we're not all just having a ball. I want to make sure there's structure and progression in what we're doing. So when those kids master a certain level, there's something in line for them to go on to in the next place. Because I was doing, the English digital citizenship lessons, month in and month out. And then one day we did the Spiro Ball, and I was blown away at how the 8-year-olds picked up on the coding and figured it out immediately. And so we realized that we're actually deterring them by not getting them in front of different mediums to learn. And so that's why we kind of mix it up a little bit. But I think in 2022, especially with the critical mass of volunteers, we could probably start with the curriculum, which we have, but then throw in financial literacy and throw in career assessments and throw in resume building and throw in, presentation stuff. So I think there's a lot that we can do so that people are not just winging it.
Okay, thank you, Mike.
Yeah. Any other questions? Anything you want to add, Cassandra or Erica, who've been with us a few weeks, and Erica's been with us months?
Nope, I'm good, thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Erica, do you want to add anything? So Erica's actually in the US, but she's been working with us for months now as an intern.
No, I don't have any questions or anything.
Okay. All right. Anyone else? I'm conscious of time for everyone.
Hi, Michael. I just wanted to say, like, I don't think I've been added to that home chat yet, so I just knew about that maybe.
Okay. The only other thing I'll say, and especially for those who are going to listen to the playback, we use Google Workspace, and so I think this should be illegal, but they don't allow like Yahoo emails or Mac emails to be included in the chats. And so I can't recall off the top of my head if your email is Gmail or not.
Yeah, mine is actually Gmail.
Okay. We will resend the invitation to you, and then I'll also email you to make sure that you get it.
Yes, thank you so much. And
I don't know how it arrives. I don't know if it comes from me or if it comes from the system. So keep your eyes on your spam as well.
Okay, sure. Thanks. And then just one more thing, like I got added to a chat called Onchion. I'm not sure how I'm Onchion, that one. So I just want to know a little bit about that.
So Onchion is in Funabashi and Chiba. And so currently they're doing lessons again with them. So I kind of just, I didn't ask anybody, to be frank. I just kind of placed volunteers with homes that were active just to kind of fill in the spaces that needed to be filled. So I would recommend that same with Fajar, if we start the, is it Muhammad or Fajar?
You can call me Fajar. My first name is Fajar.
Okay, so same with him. I mean, if we start you in the conversation and you may find that you prefer to be at a different home or a home closer to wherever you may be, we can switch that around. But for now, we put you in Onchien because it's an active home and they're keen to do a lot more. And the staff speak English and the kids speak English as well. I don't know what your Japanese skill is like, but it's not necessary per se. And there's a lot of kids that just love to come up and start talking to you and participate.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? So for me at the moment, I personally go to St. Francis on Mondays. And so people are free on Mondays. You could join us just to see what we're doing there. We're preparing because on the 18th, which is a Saturday, the donors are going to be coming to St. Francis as dressed as Santa Claus. And so we could use volunteers to help set up that day. So we're going to do sushi. We're going to hand out presents. We're going to hand out stockings. And then the kids are going to show the donors the stuff that they've been learning. On the 20th, which is the following Monday, I believe, we're going to do calendars. So we're going to give out digital cameras and have the kids. Well, actually, I was thinking this morning, not digital cameras. I want them to use their digital art. So the things that they've drawn in Night Zookeeper, the things that they've drawn online, make calendars of this digital art. And then we did that last year. And so that way they have a 2022 calendar when they get back, and we hand those out to them when they get back in January. So if anyone's interested in helping us with that, these are some events that are coming up. There's 250 stockings being delivered. I don't know the exact day. Oh, Diana, you're free. So I'll ping you, or you can ping me, and we can include you on that invitation. There's 250 stockings coming to a central location with one of our collaborative NPOs. And so X amount will be given to St. Francis, but then that means that we have a lot left over for other homes. And so we could probably use some help in that location to either address the boxes or load the van, and we drive them out to the homes to give to the homes. I'm thinking currently like the homes that are active. So go out to Onchien with the stockings, go out to Onchien, go out to Matsbayan, go out to St. Joseph's. And so since we haven't been able to see the kids, at least maybe we could be there to deliver the stockings or something. So that's something we're going to do between now and Christmas. Anybody who's interested in helping with Cassandra, you also are welcome, because we will start building up the team to start doing what we call Designing Art Academy. And so there's many different positions with this, because it's basically 60 kids coming in the morning at 9 o'clock Monday morning. We all sit in a big room together. We meditate, which is new, just to get them to kind of calm down. And then we break up into different classes. So one class might be jewelry making, another might be, cupcake decorating, another might be music, another one might be, making a mural. And then we all sit down and have lunch together. So we pass out bentos to the volunteers and to the kids. And then the kids usually go to the gym, and then they come back until about 3 and do another 2 or 3 classes. And then they get on the buses and they go home. So that is an enormous amount of coordination and work. So just in that alone, we need food and beverage coordinators. We need people who are in charge of the supplies for all the different, artists and teachers. We need people who can assign kids to different rooms and backup plans. We need people to coordinate the transportation. And so just in that day that I just explained, which goes on for 5 days, there's a lot of work to be done. And then at the end, we're trying to have a party. And then the party will show off all the art that the kids have done to the donors and invite all the people that donated, and then show, what people have been able to create. And, let's face it, these kids don't have money to go to summer camp. And so many of them really very much look forward to doing this, because they get to have so much fun. Okay. If there's no other questions, I wrote down the people in the chat who said that they're free on Monday, and I will add you to the invitation. I leave from Shibuya, and so if anybody wants to go with me, I tend to drive, simply because we're usually taking equipment or something with us. But I just need to know, otherwise I have to put you on the roof or something. So I have to make sure we rent a big enough car to hold everybody, because we rent it from the office. And it'll be easier, I think, for you to know where it is that way. Otherwise you can go by train, which is not too bad either. Okay. So thank you very much for joining today. I think it's important to have this call, because it's hard for me to articulate just through PowerPoint presentations what's going on. And I look forward to working with you.
Likewise. Thank you, Michael.
Okay. Have a good day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.